this year with the Golden Bachelorette, there's actually some really good stuff that we, and dating over 50, could actually maybe learn from. Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. Once again, I want to welcome back Sandy Weiner, the founder of Last First Date and the author of Love at Last, True Stories of Falling in Love Later in Life. Sandy, thanks for being here again.
Thank you for having me back, Silka.
I look forward to our conversation today. You just did a video on the Golden Bachelorette. Of course, if people are not familiar with The Bachelor or the Bachelorette franchise, they recently, or I should say last season, started the Golden Bachelor. We did several videos on that, and then now it's the Golden Bachelorette. And I've always poo-pooed the whole franchise. I still kind of do. I think the whole concept is ridiculous. But this year with the Golden Bachelorette, there's actually some really good stuff that we, and dating over 50, could actually maybe learn from. Just you agree with me, I think.
So I'm not a fan of the whole Bachelor franchise either.
Well, and because millions of people watch this, I mean, these shows are highly rated. The networks are putting lots of money behind it. People are watching this, and so let's talk about some of the specifics that you commented on in your video. And well, the number one theme here, totally agree. You can find love later in life.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is my business, is helping people later in life find love. And I wrote the book about it. The Love at Last book is all about couples who found love later in life. And people give up so quickly. And it's good to see people who are vibrant and active and excited about finding love again. And some of the contestants, I remember they didn't even sign themselves up. Their kids did. They were like, I don't want to be on this show. But I think that getting that little push, whether it's being on a show or actually getting yourself on a dating app or getting out there and dating, do you want to be alone the rest of your life, or do you want to try and find somebody? It may not be easy, but it's definitely doable.
It does reinforce that. And I think that the show has done that. And what I really liked about it, maybe it's just because in this time it's the Bachelorette. There's a different way as a woman that we watch this, because now the men are being judged versus the other way around. And I think that leads to your point too here, that meaningful connections can lead to attraction. I really experienced that with this, because we talk about that first spark, or you see somebody like online. You go past the picture or you click on it or whatever. And when the men came out, when I first saw him, I was like, ooh, that guy's cute, or this, I like that. Well, by the time I got to know them through a couple of episodes, it's like, not so much. It was such to me, again, a demonstration that you really need to give somebody more of a chance.
Yeah. And it's also easy to write off somebody who's good looking, like the French guy. I forgot his name, Pablo or whatever his name was.
I loved him.
He was adorable, but I didn't like him at first. He came across as extremely entitled. He didn't know how to fold laundry. He didn't know how to do anything. Getting to know him, he had so much to offer, and he was just the sweetest man. And I think we can easily write people off if we don't have that initial spark, or we can also have that initial spark and then be turned off because people don't really share the deepest parts of themselves so quickly. And at this stage in life, especially, we're so guarded. We don't want to get hurt. And people who have experienced loss or divorce, we don't want to get hurt again. And so it can take time to lower those guards, to really make those connections.
It's interesting that you said that about the French guy. I had the same thing. I said, why did they even have him on here? At first, I thought he was gay, and he ended up being just probably the most down to earth guy, or one of them. And if you haven't seen it, if you didn't watch it yet, pay attention to him. I love the way that I would say his character is developed. To some extent, it is. He teaches us a lot, I think. Here's another one that was just huge on this particular season, especially, and that is that grief is complicated. And on this channel, of course, we have tons of videos on starting over again after the loss of a spouse. This really demonstrated how having lost a spouse plays into finding love again.
Yeah. I mean, it was talked about a lot, not only Joan having lost her husband and really
Mm-hmm.
grappling with moving on, because she still loved him so much and she had a wonderful relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
Not every widow or widower has a great relationship or had a
Right.
great relationship, so that's also a
Right.
misconception. But grief is filled with ups and downs. It is not a straight line. She's excited about meeting people, and she was on Gary's season also, then the Golden Bachelor. So she's been on this journey for a while. Like, it's not like it just happened, but she would get close to somebody and then she'd start to take some steps back and think,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I really am not ready. And I think that those conversations and the vulnerability and watching her really cry and come to terms with, am I able to allow
Mm-hmm.
another person into my life? Can I fall in love again? I think that was like a beautiful television,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful for us to see. And, there are many couples who do end up with another partner and they
Mm-hmm.
can love both.
She did really demonstrate that. What she demonstrated to me, I think, is that I don't know if anybody who had a great relationship anyway will ever be quote unquote ready, that the person will always be with you, which it should. That's beautiful. And the other person, be it, like myself, another woman, or another man, need to be able to understand that, because that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, I think it's about the balance too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I met men who were absolutely not ready after their spouse passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and they would talk about them incessantly. They would show me things that the spouse had made and
Yeah.
done, and that to me was just, it was too early.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have processed it and you can
Mm-hmm.
put away some of the pictures and you don't go into that person's bedroom and it's all filled with pictures of their marriage and their
Right.
family pictures, and if you're dating somebody who is widowed, you've got to have those conversations with them and then watch their actions, see how they behave with you. Are they taking 2 steps forward, 5 steps back? Are they
Mm-hmm.
opening up and then freaking out? Like, you have
Yeah.
to really be able to see those things and
Mm-hmm.
decide, is this working for you?
The other theme here that you point out, which was so unexpected, I think, is that the male friendships can deepen with age. And again, if you haven't watched the show yet, especially the guys, like, it's funny because the Golden Bachelorette, Paul wanted to watch with me. Now, he didn't say that, but I had to, because so we could do these interviews. And I didn't even want to. He's the one, well, don't you have to watch it tonight? He just really got into the storyline. And he didn't watch this. I watched this. I binged it actually when he was not here. And I thought, I would have really loved to get his opinion on this. And that's why I'm throwing that to our guys out there. Maybe even just watch a few towards the end, especially. These guys bonded, they became friends. That was so rare, especially for the Bachelor, for the Bachelor
Yeah.
franchise.
Well, we don't normally see male friendships developing in this way. I think, here were these older men who were sleeping in bunk beds where they could barely climb up to the top bunk. And they were able to laugh at themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They all had to cook and to clean and to do everything in the house. And I just loved how they developed these friendships,
Mm-hmm.
even though they were competing for her
Yeah.
love. They also developed this camaraderie that was so special, that a lot of them also talked about living alone. And I think at this stage in life, a lot of people are lonely. They live
Yes.
alone. They don't have these kinds of friendships. And so to see that, I think was one of the most special parts of the whole show.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I thought that was really, really interesting. And obviously, especially in the beginning, yes, this is produced. They put them in situations that are awkward, that will, it's television. It's television. But I really believe that I think some of these guys developed a real bond. And I think some of them the bond they developed was more important to them actually than Joan on some level, because only one person can win, but you can keep these guys these friendships for forever
Yeah.
if if you so choose. So again, I'd love to have our guys input on that. Again, we
Yeah.
understand it's TV and all that, but I think it runs deeper than just that.
Yeah. And I just want to say that these guys also have been on podcasts, and I've seen little clips of them talking months down the road, and they are still keeping up with each other. So it's not just made for TV. I
Mm-hmm.
think they really did develop true
Yeah.
friendships.
Another article, Sandy, that I came across, I thought was really interesting, had some lessons that this particular season taught us, perhaps over and above, what the Bachelor taught us. And one is that be honest about your past, because if you're not, it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah. People really slammed Gary for not being honest that he had dated somebody for a long time. He kept saying, "Oh, I never dated
Yeah.
anyone. I've only loved Tony." It's going to catch up. People will do their research, that's for sure.
Yeah, and people lie about their stupid stuff all the time that doesn't need to be lied about. And I think that's the biggest takeaway there is this something that if you end up in a relationship with this person, is this going to come up? Will they eventually find out? And if it is, well, then don't lie about it. A
Don't
big,
lie.
big, yeah, big mistake. Also here, the this again, really important for our age group, that Joan made it really clear, Joan, the Golden Bachelorette, that she wouldn't leave her family, that if they got together, she's not going to move.
Yeah, I mean, this comes up all the time. People
Mm-hmm.
will often even not date somebody because they live so far away. So you have to figure out, is that a deal breaker for you? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people fall in love and then they go, "Oh my God, that was such a deal breaker because neither one of us would move."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff you have to have these hard questions answered before you tie the knot, before you
Mm-hmm.
even get seriously involved.
Absolutely. Well, and then that was another one, is one of the lessons, like don't jump into marriage. I mean, this is a 6 week show. First of all,
Yeah.
can you really fall in love with somebody in 6 weeks? And Joan she got engaged, but she was not going to get married. She agreed she would get engaged and see where it goes. Where Gary and Teresa, they had the live wedding, a couple of weeks later or something. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous.
And made for TV.
Yeah, and made for
It
TV.
was, yeah, it was good television. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it's just too fast.
Well, and does it marriage have to be the ultimate goal? We've done segments on that. It's yeah. I mean, we don't want to wait too long because there's not that much time left, as some people say. But that doesn't mean you have to jump into marriage and
No,
complicate your life, your finances, your retirement, your inheritances. It doesn't need to be done like that. And I think that's another good lesson. The other one here, or two, I should say, that Joan only said "I love you" to one man, which in my opinion is still too fast and ridiculous, but that's the television part of it. Where Gary told three women he loved them. I mean, this was just unbelievably stupid.
And it is, and it's misleading. I think Joan had a
Yes.
lot more integrity.
Mm-hmm.
She was a classy woman. She did things her way. She
Mm-hmm.
was not going to lead people on, and she wanted to be sincere. It's a good lesson for all of us, especially
Mm-hmm.
if somebody says they love you and you're not ready. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is a big topic that comes up all the time. If you're
Yeah,
not ready, you just say, "I am so flattered. Thank you so much. I care so much about you, but it's hard for me to say I love you until it's a big deal,
yeah.
and I don't say it until I really feel it. You don't just blurt it out, say it because you feel uncomfortable that the other person said it.
Exactly. And then finally, the fantasy suites. Again, this is just something that I just thought it was horrible that the way that this is even part of it. I never watched The Bachelor ever. This was the Golden Bachelor was the first time I ever watched it. I didn't know about the fantasy suites, which, if you're not familiar with it, this is where two or three, I don't know, whoever's left over, the final two or three, they spent the night together. And the implication is that they have sex. And Joan, again, took that off the table, that the fantasy suites is all about getting to know each other off camera, but this is nothing into or physical is going to happen here. I thought that was, thank God. I mean, this was so incredibly tacky. What do we take away from that? Well, don't jump into bed right away before you get to know someone.
Yeah, and have the conversation. Don't be afraid to say, this is what works for me. Does that work for
Mm-hmm.
you? And it's
Right.
exactly what she said. Like, if this isn't going to work
Mm-hmm.
for you, we're not going to do this.
Yes.
And they were all not only in agreement, but they respected her more. And I think that with the right relationship, somebody's going to respect that you need a little more time because it makes sense.
Yeah.
And if somebody's pushing, pushing, pushing for sex, then they're crossing boundaries and walk away. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really, if they're pushing you to do something you're not comfortable with.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the pre-production meetings to see how much pushback she got on that, because apparently that is something that's been a staple for, I don't know, 20 years now or something like that. So anyway, very, very interesting. And I wanted to talk with you about that again. Well, because so many people in our demographic do watch this and want to learn from it. So I think it's worthy of, these conversations that we're having. How would you close this out, Sandy? What haven't we discussed?
I just want to reiterate how important it is to have hard discussions, to talk
Mm-hmm.
about hard things. Don't jump into anything that you're not comfortable with. Don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Don't
Mm-hmm.
wait 6 months to ask the questions that you want to ask or speak up about things that bother you. I think that's the beauty of having relationships later in life. If you
Mm-hmm.
can learn those lessons and not be afraid to talk about that stuff, you're going to have a better relationship than you ever had in your entire life. I mean, I truly believe some of the most incredible relationships happen later in life. And the Golden Bachelorette is supposedly a good example of that. We only know what we see, but they look good together. Who knows? I mean, I have
Yeah.
my reservations about them, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other segment.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I just like the way this was produced so much better, that there actually were some worthy lessons in there. And to your point, love at last, I think that's the biggest takeaway. Yes, it is possible if you just keep that option open. And yeah, grab Sandy's book right there. Inspiration and hope for finally finding love later in life. Sandy, I will link to all of your information as usual to your page. Please give Sandy a call if you need a little coaching in this department. And Sandy, I look forward to another discussion soon on Second Act TV.